All right, welcome back into the Do Hard Things Today podcast. This is your host, Kevin Harrison, along with Jed Blackwell and Coach Katie Malone, and we are here to optimize your life, to help you in all areas, whether it be physical, emotional, mental, whatever that may be. We want to just provide resources to help you along this journey we call life. And today we're going to talk about something that affects us all, and this is a dirty word that we will call stress. Right now, we are recording this. It's about the middle of November, moving into what statistics say is the most stressful time of the year, which is going into the holiday season, which should be a joyous, festive time, but for many is a very stressful time. But we wanted to take. We've been doing some research, and we want to preface this by saying that we are not doctors. We have had some doctors on the podcast. In fact, we're going to talk about some of the people we've had on the podcast over the last few weeks. Got some great feedback on that, but what we're having is a conversation about stress. This is amongst three people and the thousands of listeners out there that tune in to listen to this this is just a conversation to talk about some things that we have learned through our research, some things we have learned fortunately and unfortunately through personal trials and tribulations at times. But we just want to, again, like we do every week, just bring you something to help you, hopefully to make you think about and think about what's causing you stressors in your life, and what are some ways that you can cope with some of those things. What are some things you can do? So that leads up to what this podcast will be about. But before we want to go in reverse a little bit and talk a little bit about the last couple of podcasts we've had. We've had some really cool guests on, and Coach, I know before we came in, you were talking about some of these things that you've actually been utilizing in your life. So give us a little feedback on what you've learned over the last few weeks with some of our guests and how you're putting this into your life and some of your athletes' lives.
Well, first of all, I just want to take what you were saying and say that I am definitely an expert on stress. Like, maybe I'm not a doctor or anything, but I feel like I'm an expert on stress.
I don't know if you're as big of an expert as I am.
We're going to have a competition here in a minute.
Who's experter between us?
Yes, really. Because when I was reading about this and kind of doing the research for this podcast, I learned so much.
But I'm going to stop you right there. You know who is the expert on stress? Out of the three of us, everybody's pointing at Jed.
I don't know if it's stress as much as it's anxiety, but it's one or the other.
Jed's stressing about talking about stress.
That's true.
Today.
I was stressing about talking about stress. Yeah. I mean, 10 minutes ago, I was in the parking lot trying to finish my little research for this. Mm-hmm. But, okay, we won't get into that yet. But to start with, we had Dr. Stephanie Mahacek. Okay, sorry, Stephanie, if you're listening. So she was here a few weeks ago. She has her doctorate in nutrition, and she has a whole platform that I decided to check out because I thought, how can I recommend this to people if I haven't done it myself? So I went out there, I signed up for her course, which basically is a month of kind of like a meal plan with recipes and a way to log it all in, and it will tell you, what your food that you're eating, what it has in it, like how much protein, how much fiber, and then lots of other words that I can't even say. So I went ahead and I started that. And so I'm on week 3 now. And first of all, her recipes are amazing because they're really simple to do, but they're really healthy. And then after I'd been doing it for a week, I had a one-on-one meeting with her to talk about like what I was doing, what was good, what really needed some improvement. And she gave me feedback on what I had logged in. And so then I got back to work and I was a little bit more intentional the next week about what I was eating and how I was doing with the protein. Protein and fiber have kind of been like my focus because I wasn't doing really well with either one of those. But my point is, you don't know what you're doing well with until you log it all in. It has been eye-opening for me, even though I think I do a good job.
In what way? What surprised you?
Oh my gosh, don't get enough protein. I really was not getting enough protein, and I was not getting enough vegetables on a daily basis. I just wasn't.
And so in your So you log these things, then you met with her,
Yes.
and
Now I've changed. Like I'm just focusing on getting like 30 grams of protein with every meal.
being
And
intentional.
I'm being very intentional, and I've done all my meal planning, and it's so much easier because now I'm not like, oh, what's for dinner tonight? Oh, well, I have all these different, what does everybody want? Here are the 3 meals that are available that I will cook, and let me know what you want. And it's just, it has taken the stress away. There's that word, stress. But it really has. It's just helped kind of change how I'm doing everything. And I'm also taking the time to make myself a meal. And in the past, I would never take time to cook for myself. Like, at lunch a couple times, I've just like cooked something for myself to eat, like cooked some chicken. I would never do that. I would never take the time. And I told myself, this is my new self-care, is cooking for myself and eating what I need to eat. And I feel a lot better. I haven't had any cravings since I've been doing this because I'm getting what I need, which kind of surprised me, like, because I love to snack and sugar, and I'm really bad about sugar.
Self-proclaimed on that podcast that you're a sugar.
Yes, but I haven't been since I've been doing this. I haven't even wanted it. I haven't had any caffeine. I've cut
Really?
the sugar, cut the caffeine.
So why have you cut caffeine out?
Well, and it wasn't anything that she had said about the caffeine. But advertising, I was like, I'm going to try this mushroom coffee. And I had one brand of mushroom coffee that tasted, quite honestly, like dirt. I just couldn't stand it. It was gross. And so that's still in the cabinet. But then my husband bought this Rise mushroom coffee.
Yeah.
He bought that. And I was like, why did you buy mushroom coffee? It tastes like dirt. Nobody's going to drink it, and you just wasted money. And he was like, well, I thought you might like it. So I
think
tried
that's
it.
the one that kind of makes you a little bit.
A little bit what?
A little bit.
What
they
are you
call
saying?
it floaty.
Hi. I think he's trying to say hi.
I think I'm trying to say hi without saying hi.
Like, what do you say? Hi, Kevin.
I'll say it. Hi.
Okay. Well, anyway, so I've been drinking the Rise coffee. And this, we do
That's
not.
why you're so happy.
Yeah, right. We do not have any sponsors here, by the way. This is just stuff I'm trying on my own. But so I've been drinking the Rise coffee. I've been drinking that stuff. I didn't even miss my coffee. And I am the kind of person who, like, don't talk to me before I've had my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get up in the morning. I want to have a glass of water, and I want to have my coffee. First things first, then everything else. I have not had coffee for weeks now.
I don't know about that, Coach Katie Malone.
What?
I don't know about giving up coffee. I don't want to give up coffee.
No, me either.
I'm glad it's working for you.
But you know what? If you asked me a month ago if I would give up coffee, the answer would have been absolutely not. But I thought, I'll try this stuff. I'll drink some of this mushroom coffee, and it tastes pretty good. It worked, and I'm not taking in any caffeine. So I'm really trying to do things to be good to myself. I also, in the last 3 weeks, have had hip surgery. I had hip dysplasia. Yes, like dogs get. I had that.
It's from hanging around all those dogs that you have.
That's it. I wish. And I had a labrum, my torn labrum. So I got all that fixed. So I fixed that. I fixed my diet. I'm not drinking coffee. I mean, I just feel like a new person.
So really, it is when you find the nutrition that is working for you, and you're putting good things in your body. It really is amazing. And I don't know why we don't do it. I don't know why we always go off on these. We get so skewed away from it, and we don't realize that the things that we're putting in our body are the thing. That's what else is going to make us feel that. We're going to talk about stress in today's episode. That plays into it as well, what you're putting into your body, big time.
It takes effort. I will say, part of the reason why I think my diet kind of goes off the rails, like during Ironman training, you get so busy doing long rides, doing this, doing that. Like, I mean, I get off the bike and I literally feel like I need to put a t-shirt on and jump in the car and go get my child from school. Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of extra time to plan.
Yeah.
And so this is a really good off-season kind of exercise
All right.
to clean up your diet. So
Well, let me ask you this.
yeah.
So, have you had a combination, because we had the good doctor in, and then we had a Dr. Stephanie on before that,
We did.
but then we had Camilla, one of your athletes
Yes.
from Lean Kitchen. Have you been able to utilize any of her meals or any of the snacks or things like that since you? Now, I know you've been injured, so you haven't been able to get out as much. But
Well, I wasn't supposed to be driving.
imagine that.
I know. But I have not used her meals recently. I had used her meals before.
Yep.
And I will definitely, like, if I'm out one day and like I need to go get something to eat, I will go eat there, because you can eat, even though her meals are meant to like take them home.
Yeah.
She has a microwave there and the meals are all ready. So you can just grab a meal, stick it in the microwave and eat there, because I know I'll be able to get the protein in and, the macronutrients that I need to kind of stay with my plan.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just a little.
Well, I'm glad to see that. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback from others that have listened to, especially the last three. We had on three really good guests, and we're going and we will be bringing you many more guests to hopefully just to bring knowledge to you, and then you have to take that knowledge and apply it.
Right.
And I'm glad to see, proud of you for applying that and taking care of yourself. Sometimes those of us who like to invest in others don't invest that much in ourselves as we should, and that can catch up with us. And
it can.
And sometimes cause the thing that we're going to talk about today, which is Jed Blackwell's favorite subject, stress.
My very favorite.
We are talking about stress. Now, when you hear the word stress, because we have listeners right now listening, and when there are things that pop into your mind immediately. What pops into your mind immediately, Jed, when you say stress?
Oh, everything that I haven't done and need to.
Yeah. Everything that's piling up. What else? Katie?
Oh,
Don't
my
look at your
gosh.
notes. What
I
comes
don't
into your
even
mind?
need to look. What comes to my mind when I think about stress?
I'll go further than that. You
Yeah.
ready?
I'm ready.
Everything that might affect my life, whether I can control it or not.
Yeah.
I think the things that are out of control are what really stress me.
Oh,
like
yeah.
things that are completely out of my control. And I'm not talking about the presidential election either.
Mhm.
I'm talking about everything else.
Oh, yeah. Like, is it going to New York in 4 weeks for Christmas
Okay.
for a couple of days? Is the flight going to be on time?
What? You're stressing about that already?
Yeah, I was stressing about it when I made the reservation.
Well, you
Because
know
if the
what?
flight's not on time,
hmm
then how are they going to get to their hotel?
Everything's going to spiral.
Yeah, and everything will just fall complete. That's and that we laugh a little bit.
Mhm.
You do think like that.
Yeah, and
some,
it's a terrible way to live.
some people do think like that.
Yeah.
But I think all of us, some of the biggest stressors in our lives are things that are completely out of our control
Completely.
that we start thinking about. Because
Mhm.
when you start thinking about them, you go down this road, like
Yep.
you said, it spirals. Like, what are all the bad things that could happen?
But it's figure outable.
I told Kevin last week, there are two kinds of people in the world. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
The whole world falls into two kinds of people. What could possibly go wrong? Everything.
Oh. Okay.
That's the two. And
yeah.
so one of the
I'm in the first.
one of the things that I'm sure we will touch on is these, we call it two circles. You have two things that are in your peripheral. You have your circle of control. That's the circle of things that you can control,
Mm-hmm.
and the circle of concern. And these are all the things that have some kind of effect on you at some point, but you have no control over.
Kevin's
And-
circle just got a lot bigger
Well,
for those
and-
of you who can't see us.
And-
He's drawing circles over there.
And for those of us who walk through life with high functioning anxiety, stress comes from trying to control the things that should only be a concern.
Exactly right.
You want to try to control it.
And you can't,
No, you
which
can't.
in turn creates
Right.
that anxiety and,
because
stress.
because you can't, you take on more stuff in your life that you can control. You don't let other people who can control things for you control those things. You take the control back.
Oh, well.
All right, so let's start at the
Problem with that.
Right.
So let's start at the beginning.
Okay, start at the beginning.
What is stress? We talk about it. Things come to our mind that all these things we've talked about that's not stress. Those are things that cause stress. So what is stress?
Can I read the definition? Or do you just want
don't
my
know.
off the top of my head definition?
Just depends on if you can read or not, I guess. If you
Okay.
can read, you can absolutely read
Well,
it.
all right. So from my notes, I have stress is an intrinsic and universal aspect of human life, manifesting as the body and mind's natural response to any demand or challenge that disrupts our equilibrium. That was better than anything I could come up with.
That's better than what I have. I have a few things, and yours is a very technical definition, and I live in bullet points, as anybody that knows me will tell you. I have a few things. Stressors can be physical or emotional. Cold or heat causes, and listeners, I want you to just be thinking about these different things is how you feel stress, because it is physical or emotional. And those are two different things that we're going to delve into a lot. And I know that Coach Katie has I know she got a lot of stuff ready for us. Cold or heat causes stress. Relationship issues, financial problems cause stress. Physical exercise causes stress. Stress response, your heart rate physically, heart rates go up, blood vessels dilate, blood rushes to your legs. Stress response activity activates certain systems and slows it down to others. Heart rate, dry mouth. Stress response says do something or say something. You want to control, I have some ways you can control stress too. Some of the things that cause stress, some of the biggest things that cause stress.
Tigers chasing you.
Tigers chasing you.
Yes.
Why do you think much like anything, why do you think we have stress in our lives?
To keep us safe.
To keep us safe, because tigers used to chase us.
I know that's.
But
where
why
that came
tigers don't chase us anymore?
They don't, but I mean, predators do.
What kind of predators?
I don't know. Creepy people.
Like what?
Like if you're running at the park in the dark and you think somebody might jump out of the bushes and
So
get you.
what are the
Same.
tigers that chase us now?
I disagree. A huge medical bill that you're unprepared for is a tiger.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good
Ta-
save.
Tax, your property tax bill doubling or going up a third from last year is a tiger when you're not prepared for it. Not taking care of your health and being proactive and then being faced with a situation that you probably could have prevented. That's a tiger.
Mhm.
There's a lot of them.
There are a lot of tigers.
Yeah.
He's thought about this.
Yeah. And it causes that stress. So when a real life tiger is chasing you, you want that stress response, right?
Yeah.
Why? To escape the tiger,
Right.
correct? So now that we don't have real life tigers that are literally, if we do not get away from them, are going to kill us right then, and we have these other things, how do we deal and manage the stress of, that short-term stress? You may have it another way. I've got it 3 ways: short-term, medium-term, and long-term stress. So what we want to provide our listeners is talking about these things, explaining what they are, talking about some possible ways that you can deal with these in your lives, and some of the consequences if you don't.
And maybe how to avoid assigning top flight tiger response to every small stressor
Correct.
like I do.
Correct.
So,
All right, Coach Katie, let's dig in.
All right. I'm ready to dig in. So I will agree with you. I mean, there are lots of different types of stress, but just for this podcast, we're going to go with short term, medium term, and long term. Now, stress is bad for you, right? Is stress bad for you?
not always, but a lot of the time.
Most of the time. So when you're under stress and you have a deadline, how does that affect you? Is stress good or bad when you have a deadline?
It depends on what kind of deadline. If it's a deadline with something that I am not as familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a major source of negative stress. If it's a deadline for something I have to write, it sharpens my focus.
Right. And also it's stress. Like, we're not stressed about stuff we don't care about, right?
Right.
Like, if you
That's
didn't
true.
care about your writing,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
wouldn't be stressed about it. But if
Yeah.
you care about it, then we tend to have more stress associated with it.
But it does. This is one of the things that surprised me as I researched more on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it surprised you too, if I remember our conversation about it, that all stress is not bad.
No.
That when you talk about deadlines and those kind of things and everyone is different in this, but I, like myself, I love a fire. And what I mean by that is when it heats way up, that stress response for me is one that causes me to act and be very proactive in those things.
There were times in my former career that 50,000-ish people wouldn't get their newspaper the next morning if I didn't have a story filed by 9:45, and at 9:15 my game was still going.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
So
stress response.
Yeah, I loved it.
well, but also stress threshold.
Mm-hmm.
So take what you just said, Kevin,
Yeah.
about the fire. What happens when that fire comes on top of 5 other fires? How well does it go then?
Oh, it can shut you down.
Right. And so that threshold, just like with your heart rate in training or racing, if you're racing at your threshold and you go above your threshold for too long, you're done.
Yeah.
Your race is over and you are either going to drop out or just have a terrible performance. And so I think with stress, the same way, like once we get to that threshold, like we might perform really, really well, but we also start to walk that tightrope of it might go either way.
And I would say when you get to that tightrope, and I've lived a lot of my life on this tightrope, is you're always at that almost full tilt.
Right.
And you're full tilt until you're not. And then when you're not,
you crash.
It banks straight down and you go down to zero, and there's like a shutdown period. And that's that stress response that you get to a point to where you can't take any more in.
So the interesting thing with stress and, the crashing point is a little bit of stress can be really good for you. You can perform better. You can also actually, like through some breathing techniques, like if you are starting to get sick, you can keep yourself from getting sick by increasing your stress level to attack whatever, you've got, whatever illness you're starting to get, and you can keep yourself healthy. I thought that was insane when I read about that.
Okay. Explain a little bit more.
Well, which part?
What you just said.
Oh, about the breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stress, when your stress is kind of at a higher level, it actually is good for you physically, which I couldn't believe because I'm like, why do people always get sick after their Ironman? Well, this explained all of that because as long as your stress response is a little bit higher, your heart's beating a little faster, your body's kind of operating at maximum capacity for a little bit, you're all good and you can actually avoid getting sick. And as soon as you come off of that and your stress response lowers and is no longer present, then you get really sick.
Yeah.
And that's like after Ironman. People all the time get sick after Ironman. And I never, I knew it was a common occurrence. I just didn't, because I felt like your body just wasn't primed and you're just exhausted. So you're just like wide open to getting sick, but it's actually a stress response.
So what are you saying we can do to prevent that? Because we have a lot of people that deal with things like Ironmans, marathons, those kind of physical exercises. Got a lot that don't do those kind of things that do, but they have deadlines at work. They have big projects they work on. They have, it could be some of our educators that have big testing deadlines and those kind of things that are coming up, that they're working really, really hard, high stress, and then that thing ends. What are these things that you're talking about that can help prevent that crash?
Decline. Well, basically I'm talking about breathing techniques. And I'm not really going to get into exact breathing techniques because there were so many, and I am definitely no expert on breathing techniques.
Yep.
But look up the name Wim Hof.
Mm-hmm.
you're familiar
Oh,
with him. I figured you would be. I was like, I'm just going to throw that name out there and see what Kevin has to say about him. But Wim Hof is Dutch, and he has done all sorts of craziness by controlling his breath and having all these different breathing patterns. And basically, you know, in order to keep yourself from getting sick, if you start doing certain, you know, different rhythms of breathing in and breathing out, breathing in, holding your breath for a second, and then breathing out, all of these can kind of make your body respond in a different way.
I'm going to
Uh-oh.
I'm going to speak to this
Okay.
because it really happened.
Okay.
So remember I told you about the physiological sigh.
Oh, yes. Well, we can talk about that too.
This is what I'm going to say about the breathing stuff. And the Wim Hof, it's been proven over and over that these things are legitimate. But so after studying about this, my daughter and I were in Florida. She had some appointments down there, and this is right after the hurricane came through. We had 2 hurricanes, not the hurricane in the upstate of South Carolina and western North Carolina, but the one that came through Florida. I forget the name of it, but you know what I'm talking about. So we're down there, and we're in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And so the hotels, there was a lot of damage and things, but they were doing a lot of things going on the outside. So the electrical stuff was in and out. So I'm in the elevator. And in fact, I had just done a run.
Oh.
It's a true story. So I had just done a run. I was coming back up. She was getting ready. And so I get in the elevator and going up. Elevator stops.
Oh.
And so I'm already kind of hot and a little bit dehydrated, and the elevator stopped. And so, I mean, I don't like close-in spaces. I don't like that kind of stuff. So immediately, I was like, oh, man. I could feel my heart rate rising. I mean, I could feel like I'm stuck in an elevator. And so I hit I'd never had to do it before, but you hit the little fire button or whatever the thing is. Well, it calls. And I guess by law, it calls someone in the hotel. So the answer, I was like, hey, I'm in the elevator. It's stuck. She was like, okay, we've had, you know, just it's a power issue. We're doing it. And I'm like, how long am I going to be in here? And she was like, well, don't know. She said, I'm going to get our maintenance guy. And so I'm like, man, okay, I am completely out of control. And I'm in this elevator by myself.
I was going to say, how many people were in there
Just
with
me.
you?
Just me.
Well, that's good. At least it was just
And
you.
so I really thought, I was like, okay, Kevin, you've been studying this physiological sigh, which is you breathe in, but you exhale longer than you inhale. And what Andrew Huberman was talking about it, he's a Stanford PhD, and he's got a huge podcast, the Huberman Lab, that discusses these kind of things. But he had talked about this, and actually Jack Feldman at UCLA, he's the one that first studied it. But the goal was to get your heart rate down. And they were developing these breathing techniques to when you're claustrophobic, when you're crying, right before you go to sleep, or if you just feel yourself getting completely stressed out. And it's this physiological sigh where you take in 2 quick inhales and then
just don't fall asleep. They said you could fall asleep if you do too much.
That's a really good way to go to sleep.
If you do too much, but you take in 2 quick breaths and then you exhale for twice as long as you inhale, and they've shown that it brings your heart rate down.
It takes like 30 seconds though, I think.
So, yeah, it takes 30 seconds.
Just so you know, it's like not immediate. You got to do it for a little bit.
So I sat down in that elevator, put my back against the wall, and I started doing that.
Good.
And I calmed down.
That's good.
And I sat there, and I was like, okay. And I started. Then I once my heart rate started coming down, and I hope this helps you guys in some situation like this. I started thinking about other things, and I stopped thinking about the problem that I was in at that point in time.
So that's disassociation.
Disassociation, getting my mind off of the fact that I was stuck in an elevator, and I don't know how long I was in there, probably 15 minutes. But
seemed like a long time though, didn't it?
Seemed like a long time, but I kept, and then I would find myself. It's interesting how our mind works. I would find myself my heart rate starting to go up a little bit. And as I would start thinking about, you're stuck in this elevator. You're stuck in the Jed, like you talked, the things you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
You're stuck in the elevator. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I was like, Kevin, I know you're stuck in the elevator, and there's nothing you can do to fix it. Take these deep breaths, focus on other things, and then start thinking, you know what? There's all kind of safety mechanisms. Elevator's not going to fall. You're not going to die. You can breathe. They're going to get you out. And then eventually they opened it. When they opened it, it was halfway between floors.
Right.
And he's like, hey, we're just going. He said, we're getting you. I was like, dude, I'm crawling out of this thing. As soon as I saw the door, I said, I'm crawling out. He's like, well, I was like, I don't care. I'm crawling out. I'm out of here. But it was funny. It was funny how
did you crawl out?
Oh, absolutely. I crawled out.
Like, I am out of
I got
here.
out and I said, I'm taking the stairs. And, but it really helped me see that physiologically, through the right you can control these things,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get your heart rate back down through those breathing, and through that, like you said, the disassociation of not focusing on the thing that I could not control, which I had zero control over, getting that elevator open or getting it moving again.
Well, if you're fighting the stress, it actually takes more energy from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but of course, we are just so conditioned to, if something's stressful, I'm going to fight it with every ounce of my body. I'm like, I just want to fight it. And that is the absolute wrong thing to do. So what you did was right on.
All right, carry on. That was a side note.
Thank you. Well, no, that was a really good story. Mm-hmm. I mean, aside from the fact that you got stuck in an elevator, it was a good story. But, okay, so we were talking about short-term stress, long-term, or medium stress, and then long-term stress. So short-term stress, like kind of I would say what that would be short-term stress. Mm-hmm. It was over rather quickly, but you were able to handle it. It helped keep you safe while you were in there. You didn't pass out or something because you were so freaked out. You kept yourself calm. So short-term stress and short-term are things that stress us, like just in the short term, they really aren't bad for us. They're actually really quite good for us. Like if you're going in to take a test or you're going to a race, you don't want to be flat arriving at a race, or going in to take a test. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm about to fall asleep. You want to be up a little bit for it.
And some things happen in your body. The release of adrenaline comes from that. And that's why when you're standing at the start of a race, you get wired up. And if you look at your watches, some of your highest heart rate activity will be before the race even starts. Your heart rate will spike because of the adrenaline and the things that are going. Some of the notes I put about short term were it combats infection, makes you alert, quickens your heart rate, narrows your focus on the task at hand, fights back against whatever's coming at you. One of the reasons why ice baths are good for you and make you feel so focused, because of that short-term stress. And actually, what I found interesting too was procrastination, and how
I caught that one too.
Yeah, it kind of self-imposes this short-term stress where you procrastinate, and then you're creating this stress, which I don't think is good long-term. But when you do get to that final point to where it's like, okay, I've got one day before this has got to be done. You're going to focus in laser on that, which you should have done before, but you laser focus in on it. I found that interesting.
I did too. That was one of my favorite parts about all of this. The other thing that I think is interesting is identifying what is stressing us, like exactly what's stressing us, and not using stress as just like a broad term. Like if I had walked in here today and just be like, oh my gosh, I'm just stressed. Well, like what exactly is stressing you? And usually you can kind of pinpoint maybe 2 or 3 things, because I feel like when you start to feel stressed, it's usually not just one thing. It's usually a combination of things that make it so much worse. And like if you can identify them and then start to, in your mind, well, how am I going to deal with each one? And why is it stressing at me? Why do I care about it? Is this something that I really need to be stressing about right now, which is what Jed was saying before. It's like some things are really important to stress about and some things really aren't. So,
and I think those things compound, and sometimes we find ourselves in these stressful states, because of the compounding effect of the different things.
Definitely.
And then because we don't, it's yesterday, for instance. So I get a call from my daughter. So the day before, she had a flat tire, getting it patched. Well, she's there. It's like, hey, well, tire, this one can't be patched because she ran it a little bit when it was flat. And so
Oh, yes.
you got to do this. Well, and the other 3 tires really, they're kind of getting to the point where might want to replace them. And so next thing I know, I've got 4 tires I'm buying. Okay. Now, you want to be blessed that you can't, but it's a very unexpected expense that you're not expecting to have to pay. And then an hour or 2 later, something else happens. Well, that's compounding on. And then the next thing you know, it's like, man, this is a bad day.
Right.
Stuff's going wrong. And then it's like the stress level keeps rising. And then you would say, oh, I'm stressed out. Well, why are you stressed out? Well, I'm stressed out. Well, what do you do about tire? Well, buying tires is a part of life. So you buy tires. And then the other things that happen are a part of life. You do them. And then you move on. Are you going to, just because you had to spend that money on tires, are you going to allow that to then negatively affect and impact the rest of your day? And I think with stress, I know with myself, sometimes that's what I allow to happen is these things that I'm like, man, that shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have had to replace those tires this morning. And then, so you're starting, that thing's kind of ramping up, that full tilt that you talked about. And then you feel me?
Oh, I definitely do. No, I was remembering somebody I used to know always used to say, well, it shouldn't stress you out if it's something just a little bit of money can fix. And I mean, I guess you can say that if you have a lot of money, but I always found it interesting because, like, if you do think about things like that, like if money can fix it, then, and you don't have any money, well, then it's stressful. But if money can fix it, then it's not as tragic as like, oh my gosh, you've got cancer,
Mm-hmm.
or we're going to have to amputate your leg, or, like your mother died. Like things like that, nothing can fix.
Yeah.
And those are also stressful situations.
Right.
Okay. So back on about, so that was short-term stress, medium-term stress, or what did they call it? Middle, what was the
I had
term?
medium term.
Medium. Okay.
That Huberman used.
Okay. So that like really isn't bad either, I would say. And, he kind of had talked about different, like how long is short term? I think of short term as like today, short term, maybe a couple days. Medium term is probably, it's like a phase that you're going through, a few weeks, maybe at the most. And then you've got long term, which is really bad for you.
And I've got the medium term. One of the things that I noted was I wrote times when we're just dealing with a lot.
Yes.
When there's just a lot of things kind of happening at one time. I think it's why, when we opened the pot, we were talking about how holidays can create, why do holidays create stress? Well, because you're seeing people you don't see all the time. You're seeing family members you don't see all the time. Some of that stuff creates stress. You're buying more than you should buy. You're not eating like you should eat. All these things.
It snowballs. It
snowballs on you. But those times when you're just dealing with a lot, and this is the other thing I put was this is where you feel like you're just kind of getting on the edge.
I haven't seen anybody's notes, but I'm going to tell you how I deal with that when there's a lot going on, when it does feel like you're going.
What do you do?
Something.
Do something.
Do something.
Because you know what, though? That's good advice, because so many times when you really have a lot on you and a lot of stress, it is difficult to even move.
It is. It's difficult to prioritize what you should be doing. It's difficult to find a starting place. It's difficult to do anything, like you said. To
find focus.
To move. So get up and take a shower.
Yes.
Or get in the car and run to the grocery store, or get in the car and go get some lunch, or go check the mail, or walk outside. Leave where you are
Yeah.
Get up from the spot where you are and go do something. Get on.
That's great. That's great advice.
Old sports terminology. Get on the scoreboard.
There you go.
You're down 50-0. Get one.
Yeah.
Then you can get the next one.
Well, yeah, what I wrote was, what doesn't work is telling yourself to calm down.
Absolutely not.
And if you want to control stress, you have to learn to work with this and learn to move or do when stressed.
There you go. Go get a win.
Do something.
Get any kind of win.
Yeah.
Whatever a win looks like to you, go get one.
I think it's why in that book, the Make Your Bed book,
Yes.
of that very first thing they do is you make the bed, because you're getting a win at that point.
Control something that you can control.
Yep. And as small as that seems, it is literally, if you can just get some kind of win, something positive to happen, just do something. Don't get paralyzed. And I think many times
stress is paralyzing.
It is.
And paralyzed is a great word.
I really, like, at times when I have too much on me, I'm like, I can't do anything. I can't focus. I can't, then I'm like, okay, I'll clean something, because at least then I'll do something that I feel like I have control over. And that kind of brings me back to a baseline. But when you get too much going on and you have too many commitments, it really, it's amazing. Like, I like to think I can get everything done, and I can. But if I get over that threshold, that stress threshold that I read about in here, and I am going to be using all the time from now on, if I get over that threshold, I am worthless.
Yeah. And there's again, this is the anxiety mindset. There's the perfect day where you get everything you set out to get done. And there's a disastrous day where you sit there and stare at it and do nothing. And there's a whole lot of room in between, and 89 or 90% of your days need to be those in-between days where you just do something.
Yeah.
Chip away at it a little bit. You're not going to get done with this mountain of stuff that you've either waited to do, to your point about procrastination, or that's been piling up on you and has hit you out of the blue. Maybe you can't get it all done today, but you can do something.
Well, in the book Atomic Habits, which is a great book, it talks about how the most important workouts you have are the workouts where you don't feel good, because even if you have a terrible workout, no good, slow, can't do, feel bad, whatever, it is, you got it in and you at least maintained where you were, and you didn't lose momentum. You did not lose the momentum that you were creating. And, I think it's because if you miss two, you get a little bit further behind, and then you kind of give up. That puts you in that give up phase where it's, well, I'm already, I've already missed two.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah. I've already missed these two deadlines at work. Whatever it may be, I've already eaten bad 3 times in a row. One more time. And I'll try this at the beginning of the year.
How about that one thing, and I'm sure you've seen this in your training log at some point. Something is always better than nothing.
Yeah.
I will always, any athlete, I don't care if you do 10 minutes, 15 minutes of an hour workout, something is better than nothing.
And I'll say this, just a practical tip that I think will help you, that helps me, is every day, and I think every night before you go to sleep, if you'll make a prioritized task list for the next day and that can be holistic, anything in your life, what are the 5 most important things you need to get completed tomorrow? And when tomorrow comes, start working on number 1, because then if what breaks loose, Jed, and you only got one thing done, what you got done was the most important thing you said was there, and you got at least one win. So you don't want to just go into life there. All right, so we've talked about short-term, medium-term. Let's talk about the really bad one.
Long-term stress. This is the stress that goes on and on and on. You don't sleep from it. And then
chronic.
Yeah, chronic stress. It actually has something, now they've kind of linked it with Alzheimer's. Did you see that in your research? That was pretty disturbing. I was like, oh, that's a reason to be less stressed all the time. And I think long-term stress, like part of it, we get so used to always being in a state of stress, I feel like we live in a time where if you're somebody who does a lot, you're expected to do more, do some more. You can take something else on. Come on, just do a little extra. And I know personally, I feel like I end up in the longer term stress situation more often than I want to. And the stress just stays. Like, it's like I never get rid of it. I might get rid of one thing and then something else pops up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't keep doing this. And that's part of the reason why I tried the nutrition program, because I was like, I've got to do something to take care of myself. Because, we all want to believe like somebody else is going to step in and stop us from all our bad habits and save us. But they're not going to. We've got to save ourselves. And whatever that means for you personally, like we have to also take a really good look at what we do on the daily that is not serving us. Because I think we all probably have gotten into situations, where we said, oh, I'll do that. Oh, I'll do that. No problem. Oh, yeah, friend, I'll ask you at coffee. Oh, can you help me with this project? Sure. And all of a sudden you're doing way more than is physically possible. And you realize that you're in over your head, but you don't want to let anybody down, so you can just suffer a little bit longer. And I think that being honest with yourself and like taking a step back and really looking at like, what am I doing that's important work? What am I doing that I need to let go? How is this affecting my family? And, I think for me in the last few weeks, I've really, because I had surgery and I couldn't really go anywhere or do anything, it gave me a lot of time to really sit back and go, whoa, like, what have I been doing? And I think that everybody needs to take a time, whether it's at the end of the year or not. Like, honestly, I wouldn't wait till the end of the year. I think now is a really good time, fall. The leaves are shedding off the trees. We can kind of let things go. It's a good time to look at all the stuff you do. Like, make a list of it. Like, literally start writing it down. And then you can start crossing things off.
Yeah. I think we get some of the things, they talked about how, what can prevent some of these long-term stress things. And they talked about the problem with such a lack of real-life social connections that the society we live in now is. Everything is instant. Social media. We have 5,000 quote-unquote friends, but have hardly any relationships. How those things can, that just the good, solid friendships and relationships and connections and unplugging from everything that's coming into our eyes and our ears, unplugging from those things and just evaluating of, okay, what's my purpose here? And what's really important to me?
Well, social connection actually was one of the things that they said was most important to battling against long-term stress.
Yeah.
And, I know we've talked about this a long time ago on the podcast about like, who has time to, have friends? We're too busy. We're working, we're training, we're doing this. But like, really have friends, like, hey, you want to go out to lunch and just talk, or just go out to lunch, just to go out to lunch, not because of anything. And it's hard, or Kevin, I remember in the podcast we had been talking about, having people over for dinner. Mm-hmm. Like, who does that anymore? Well, Jed does.
Yeah,
game night.
I do.
Once a year or something, or once a month. Is it once a month?
It's probably every 8 weeks or so now. But
okay.
Yeah, we do.
But
had one the other night, matter of fact.
But see, that's very healthy, but it takes effort. And I think when you're already kind of in a stressed state, it's really hard to put that effort forth.
You don't want to, and then all these things play in together where it's like, no, I don't want to cook a healthy meal and have friends over and let's just shoot the breeze and talk. Let's pick something up, come home and eat it fast, let's turn on Netflix, zone out, watch that until we fall asleep, let's get up next day and start over again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're not.
It's kind of sad.
It is.
Honestly.
But I would venture to say that that's 90% of people out there are more on that spectrum than they are the spectrum that Jed's talking about of really being intentional about having friends.
I agree. So during the hurricane, definitely there's not a lot good that came from the hurricane that hit us here in the upstate. I mean, I know I was without power for 11 days. I saw more of my neighbors in the 11 days that we did not have power than I have in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. And we had conversations and we sat together and we had dinner together. I mean, like, don't know that I'd ever had dinner with.
And you
some
found
of
out
these
things
neighbors.
about them that you had no idea
Correct.
about them.
Correct. And it was really kind of beautiful. And, I was home alone for part of it. And so it was like, I had to figure things out, had to ask people for help, which I'm never good at doing. But, well, when you don't have power and you can't get your generator started, it's time to start asking for help because I needed some water, so it's time to go ask people. And it was just amazing how all the neighbors came together, how they helped each other, I've got water. I've got a big generator. Come take a shower. Come, here, get water. Come have dinner. Oh, we're going to do a potluck dinner. We're going to do this. Come have a glass of wine. And it was just like things that I never have time to do. All of a sudden, everything became very simple. And it was just about getting gas for the generator each day, getting water, and figuring out how to feed myself. And it just kind of, I don't know, it was good. That was nice.
Yeah. And we all know that.
Yeah.
We all know that it is. So Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there, what can we do about this problem? Because I think there's a lot of people out there dealing with chronic stress, and it is having impacts on them that they may not even see right now.
But I think a lot of times it's much easier to recognize it in your friends than it is to recognize it in yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think I had posted something on Facebook the other day, and it was, I didn't mean anything by it. I just saw it and I kind of liked it. And it said something about like, reach out to your friends, just because. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently everybody thought they need to reach out to me, which was nice.
What's wrong?
It was nice.
What's wrong?
There was nothing wrong.
Yeah,
I was like, why are all these people calling me? I mean, but I did get to connect with a lot of people. There was no hidden message in that. I just thought, really, like, you should just call people up that you haven't seen or talked to that you like.
But when you do that, the first reaction you have is like, I had that kind of stuff happen all. Hey man, love to catch up. Let's grab lunch. And immediately I think one or two things. Oh. What's wrong?
Or what's he want?
Or what do you want?
Yeah.
Not, hey, that's cool, man. I want to catch up and let's just shoot the breeze. And I can't tell you how many times that I see people and I'm like, man, I haven't seen them in forever. Let's catch up. And then you step back and you start counting that cost of, okay, do I really want to reach out? And when do I have time to eat lunch? When do I have time to go to a breakfast? But those things are important and crucial, but you just don't do them because they're not on fire right now.
No, but we operate, I feel like our go-to is everything's got to be on fire. And everything is on fire most of the time. It's like, it's got to happen now. We got to do this. We got to do our training every day. If we don't do our training every day, it's just, what's it worth? Nothing. Somebody
emailed me. Somebody texted me. And we feel like we've got to respond right now to everything. And we've got to get this stress problem we have under control. We've got to.
I think getting the stress problem under control is probably something that we all need to focus on, in our own lives. Like what are our stressors? Why are they important to us? And kind of, find a way to slow down a little bit. And not that we can all like just be like, oh, well, I'm not going to go to work, or I'm not going to do this or that. But like, there are definitely things that we can all do to step away. And like, maybe by me stepping away from something that I wasn't passionate about anymore or really good at anymore, maybe it's going to give somebody else the opportunity to shine. It's like so many times I feel like I have to do this because if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. And that's not the case. I mean, a lot of times there are other people who've been watching what you're doing who are like, I want to try that. Mm-hmm. So by you stepping back, it gives somebody else an opportunity.
Yeah, and that can be, and it can be a stressor. It can be a stressor even to watch that happen. Because I know for years, I've served on a lot of community things, and for years I felt I don't know if it was a burden or I don't know how to exactly describe it, but I felt like I needed to do it all. I needed to be at every event. I needed to be at every concert. I needed to do this. I needed to be there because they were dependent on me. And, I got to a point where, when you say you get to that razor's edge and you just kind of drop off, where I was like, you know what? I don't even want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it at all. I mean, you go from doing it all to I don't want to do it at all. And so you got to find that balance to where it's where does this, whatever it is you're doing, whether it's your job, whether it's serving on boards or community organizations, those kind of things, your family, your fitness. See, I believe there's 4 F's. I believe fitness, family, finances, and faith. I believe you got to get all 4 of those things in balance for your life to function correctly. Whatever area it is, how does it fit into your whole being of you as a person and what you're doing and what your purpose is and your mission in life? How do you keep these things in balance? I know balance is a fuzzy word to grab hold of, but how do you do that? And I think if you can keep those things in balance, because when it gets out of balance. If you got a tire that's out of balance, you're riding down the road, bump, 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 bump. It's pulling to the left. Something's not right. Something's not right. And so keeping those things in balance, I think you have to figure those things out, because you're right. There are other people out there that can do. You don't have to do everything.
And somebody gave me some great advice one time, because I was one of those guys. I was a try to do everything, got to be everywhere. Well, you went to this last year, so you need to go again. Well, you went to this for another school, so you need to do it for this one. And somebody gave me some good advice, and your personality, especially when you're trying to get to a lot of things, you'll get what I'm saying here. Nobody else expects as much of you as you expect of yourself.
Correct. So true.
You're not letting anybody down. Mm-hmm. You're letting yourself down if you feel like, but kind of take that stress out. Give yourself permission to stay home. Nobody's going to miss you. I don't mean that in a negative mm-hmm. way. I mean, they're not looking over in the corner and thinking, well, Jed didn't come to this. I wonder what he's doing. They're not looking and say, hey, where's Kevin?
Yeah. That's so true.
You expect to be there, but nobody's expecting you to do that. Yeah. Give yourself a break.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. That's good. I mean, that is the expectations we put on ourselves.
Yeah, those are your expectations, not anybody else's.
Yep. All right.
And we're usually harshest with ourselves.
Absolutely are.
100%. So in wrapping this up, and we didn't even plan this part, but let's give them three tips, 3 things to try to start managing and controlling the stress in their lives.
Okay, the one has to be the psychological sigh, mm-hmm. like the
physiological sigh.
Oh, sorry, physiological sigh. Whoops.
Yeah. I'm very proud of myself.
When I can't read
any breathing technique.
When I can't read my own handwriting. Okay, so I think that one is really important for everybody to remember.
2 deep breaths in, 2 quicker breaths, and then twice as long on the exhale.
Yep.
You know what else works?
What?
If you've got a pet that you're sitting near, if they're asleep, and most pets that you're sitting near are going to be asleep, Just kind of put your hand on them and match their breath.
Really?
Because they're not stressed about anything.
No.
Or Cooper's not anyway. My little Schnauzer's not stressed about anything. Match the way they're breathing.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to try that.
Well, and also their energy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it calms you down just a little bit.
They do.
Yeah.
Man, especially my older dog.
Yeah.
Whenever
It
I
does.
just, some of them this.
Dogs and
Yeah.
horses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they're hot and they're panting, certainly don't give yourself a heart attack. Just kind of ease into it and match their breath.
All right, one more. I'm not giving one.
You're
I'm
not
just
giving
listening.
one? Oh,
So
okay.
that means I'm coming back to you.
All right. I think taking inventory is mine. I think you really write it down, take inventory of the things that you feel heavy for you, and start crossing things off the list.
Yeah. And asking the why. Why,
Yeah.
why are these things so heavy? And why are these things stressing me out? Why do I, even like on the stressors, like Jed, you were talking about it, why does it stress you out why did it stress you out to not be at everything? What's the thing there? Why does it stress you out? For some people it becomes financial things. Why does it stress you out when a financial thing hits you? Why does it stress you out with different friendships? What is it? Get down to the core of what that is. And I think an inventory does that.
It just, and letting things go. I think also, if you do this at this time of the year, and you look at it, you go, okay, I'm going to take these 3 things off my list. I need to inform the people who it's going to affect. You let them know now so they have time to prepare, find somebody else to do it starting in the new year, because a lot of the stuff, rolls over from year to year. I think that being able to tell people well ahead of time takes the stress away from you too. You don't want to wait till the beginning of the year and be like, you know what, I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm just not going to show up.
Mhm.
I mean, because then that just makes the stress even worse.
And it's amazing how good it makes you feel. Here's a real life example, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. So I took this burden for any of our listeners that have ever interacted with a little league before,
Oh.
know how stressful that can be. But I pretty much ran one of those for years. I mean, like years, like probably 15 years. And man, it was so stressful, and it was just so, and I felt like, and I kept trying to get other people involved. And man, I don't want to deal with the parents. I don't want to do. And so I kind of took this burden on myself of, I'm the only person that can do this. So I'm just kind of sentenced to doing it. And I got to that point where I was like, man, you know what? I've done all I can do. I'm done. If the whole thing crashes and burns, if nobody else is going to, well, some people did and got involved with it. And I've been out of it for, about 3 years now, but I was running at our high school, and I was running by, and this won't mean anything to some people, but for some of you, you'll resonate with it. But I ran by, and they were playing, the Little League was doing their football thing. And I just stopped, and I just watched for just a little bit. I was standing at the fence, and nobody even there near me. I just watched it for a few minutes, and I was like, man, they're doing awesome. Probably better without you doing it, because now there's more people involved, and they're doing, and there's more people. And I just felt proud. I don't know if proud's the right word, but I felt so I don't know what I felt right then. It was the opposite of whatever stress is. Just looking at that and saying, man, you did what you needed to do, and then you passed that torch on to other people, and they took it and ran with it. Now they're flourishing, doing great, and man, you ain't got a thing to do with it. And it felt so good. And so whatever the opposite of stress is, that's what I felt right then. So I would encourage any of you others that are in a predicament like that to, good word, what you said was, other people can do it. Give it away to other people, and take that inventory of what do you need to get out of your life to de-stress, and focus on the things that are taking you to what your purpose is. And man, just a lot of stuff. And just in wrapping up, we're not doctors, but we have sure seen a lot of stuff and been around a lot of things and done some things right, some things wrong, researched a lot. I just encourage you to take it for what it's worth, a conversation about stress and what causes it and what you can do to prevent that in your life. And some of these things that we talk about, doing inventories, breathing, slowing down, other things, they're so hard to do. But with stress, just like everything else in life, if you do the hard things today, tomorrow will take care of itself.